Da 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 da. Welcome to disenFRIENDSchised. I'm Karen Belinsky Matheson of the Naked Grief, and this week is episode 19, the one where the monkey gets away. Just so you know, disenFRIENDSchised is about dissecting each Friends episode one at a time and identifying the different levels of disenfranchised grief that's in each one. So moving on to the one where the monkey gets away, there's a few things that we're just going to open with right off the jump. This episode really focuses on secondary grief and misconnections and the what if moments. Do I hang on to this relationship? Do I let it go? What if we did start again? And then the ultimate loss of what happens when something you're responsible for gets away from you, and how does that impact everyone? So the quick one is Rachel learns that Barry and Mindy got engaged. Mindy, her maid of honor, who I think right around now is when it unravels that Mindy was actually who used her ticket to go to the honeymoon, and things just kind of went from there. And it may even be in this episode that it's discovered that Barry cheated with Mindy while engaged to Rachel because he was going through that cold feet stage. Rachel accidentally lets Marcel the monkey escape while she's cleaning up after him because he pooed somewhere. And then she experiences panic and guilt and anxiety. Ross wants so desperately to tell Rachel how he feels, and he's all set to do so with wine, and what better opportunity than the day that she takes care of the monkey, and what's going to turn into a romantic night completely shifts. The animal control lady, Louisa, that gets called in is a friend, or not even a friend, someone they knew back in high school who had her own series of drama and trauma in high school, and almost lets her bitterness from how she was treated back then influence what happens next. Louisa does try and shoot Marcel, and Phoebe gets in the way of the bullet and basically gives Louisa an ultimatum. Go ahead, take the monkey, but if you do, I'm going to call your supervisors and tell them that you shot a human. And Barry shows up telling Rachel that he still loves her. And as we know, Rachel really likes to hear I love you, no matter when in the relationship it is, because she thinks it's important and that it just feels good to hear, even if you don't reciprocate it. So that has her feeling a little conflicted. So grief points to identities and to identifying. So Rachel and Barry. When Rachel and Barry broke up and she left him at the altar, there was a loss of the fantasy of what the happy ending could look like. That disappeared, right? Rachel's forced to get a job. She's forced to realize that she's got to be the roommate now instead of the housewife because she can't afford anything else. She can't do anything on her own now. But yet she's independent on that same level. The grief flavor is regret, comparison, abandonment, sting, identity grief. Did I blow up my life for nothing? Especially while she's trying to find a job better than the coffee house. And then, of course, we have how I would coach through this, which is grief isn't always about the person. It's about the future that you thought you'd have. And how do you reframe that and not let yourself live in the what ifs, but how to make those what ifs new possibilities? Your lens has changed. So what can we own right now, and how can we steer the ship so that it gets you closer to what you really want without needing that other person to provide it for you? Learning how to do it on your own just makes it that much more incredible when you have somebody to share it with. But how often are we dependent on somebody else that we don't even realize our own strength? So I would show Rachel her opportunity to really shine right now and to stand in her own light and see that she's got this bigger than she thinks she does. The doubt spiral of, did I make the right decision? Loss and certainty. The grief flavor is anxiety grief, self-trust rupture. And again, the way to coach through this is, uncertainty is not evidence of choosing wrong, it's evidence that you're human. On a little side note, I've been going through this myself. um this is my third week now without heat. We're now on January 16th. I've been without heat since the day after Christmas. And that's to no fault of, well, it's nobody's fault but mine, to be honest. I really thought that I just misadjusted the thermostat for the first couple of days. And then with the holidays, I waited to call. And now warranties take a while, folks. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm just letting you know. But in the process, you see who shows up for you and who doesn't. And there was someone that I had been talking to who I thought had some potential to being a part of my life for a little while. And the way they showed up was not the way I wanted or needed them to, or lack of showing up, really. But when I actually put the other lens on or flip it from their perspective, because I never asked for anything, they don't know what to do. But the last thing I want to be is needy. So I've been going through this same, did I make the right decision, or am I making the right decision? Because each one of us only knows half of the story. So am I really seeing true colors here? Or am I creating this painting with only half the information? And that's a challenge, right? Like, when you're only a couple months invested, it's a lot easier to walk away. For Rachel, she had been engaged to Barry for a while. I mean, they were engaged. So walking away was a lot harder. There was a lot more history. So did I make the right decision is going to ring louder than my real life scenario. It's only been a couple months, so it's a lot easier to walk from that. But she's also a fictional character. Um, but Rachel's also been moving on, improving herself, which is why she's gifted the responsibility of watch Marcel for me. Now she's having a great time with him. They're watching a soap opera. He poops in a shoe. She takes the poop to the dumpster and forgets to close the door. Marcel gets out. So the loss is the disappointment, because she disappointed Ross. He asked her to do one thing, watch my monkey, and she couldn't do that. Anger from him, um, the fact that she lost control of something. The grief flavor is the panic grief that she experiences, the anticipatory grief of, what is he going to do to me? What's he going to say? I just destroyed our friendship. The coaching lens to this is, when we're panicking, we don't need a lecture, we need containment, and we need next steps, sense of direction. Oftentimes, and this is so true, we spiral. We spiral like a funnel, or think about like you're in on cloud level and one thing starts to fall, and then you're the beginning of the tornado and you're just spiraling down towards the ground. And depending on how many things get added into this funnel or spiral, depends on how fast it's going, how overwhelming it feels. And sometimes we need somebody to help pull us out of the momentum so that we can really see that this isn't so bad. Like I said, no heat, 3 weeks. It's not the ideal situation, but I have enough heaters that it's keeping the house at about 55, which sounds cold, but running around in a jacket and wrapping yourself up with blankets this time of year is kind of nice. Gives you a chance to cuddle and watch movies with your kiddo. It gives you a reason to bake cookies in the oven to warm up the house, and a reason to get bundled real nice under the covers for bed. So the one thing that is teaching me is, when the heat comes back, I'm not running it at 74 anymore. It'll be like 66, because I don't need it hot. So you learn from it. But it's that perspective and having somebody be able to adjust your perception so that you can have a little bit more control of what really is going on is a big thing. Ross's anger at Marcel's disappearance. Ross looks at Marcel as his kid. It's his pet. It's his preparation of being a dad. And the fact that Rachel lost him shatters Ross on several levels. It's Rachel who let him down. It's his pseudo kid that's missing, but it's Rachel who let it happen. And his anger as a protector, his fear of losing him forever, the anger that shows up when in situations like this can make people feel unsafe and say, I'm scared. And Ross lets a side of him get seen by Rachel that he probably didn't want. It was his vulnerable yet angry side. It's a side that when we are dating, we don't want to show anyone, let alone when we like somebody. The fact that Marcel is illegal, the fact that he's illegal and animal control is called just adds that extra spice to this episode and causes a lot of concern. Now the city of New York knows that there is an exotic monkey living in an apartment. We learned that he has to go away. Louisa can't keep her mouth shut forever. And when systems get involved, grief intensifies because the outcome isn't always ours anymore. Like in this case, they could have just kept looking for the monkey, but because animal control got involved, new layers of the rules got into play. Now, luckily, Louise had shot Phoebe, and Phoebe threatened her, and all was well in the world for a couple more episodes. But still, when outside forces get involved, it complicates things. It changes the look of stuff. But also learning that Louisa felt like an outcast in high school. Rachel was so popular and ignored her. Monica and Rachel didn't even realize Louisa was in their homeroom with them until she said something 20 years later. So, yeah, she was doing her job, but she was doing it without really having to think about it because it was her chance at, quote, revenge, so to speak. And I've mentioned the Phoebe tranquilize piece a couple of times, and that's grief too. She loses feeling in her body, and she has to trust others to get her around because she can't feel her butt. It's violation, and nervous system shock, but they throw in some humor to help keep the episode more balanced. It's Phoebe, so Phoebe handles everything with a lot more poise and grace than most, and really makes the best of a bad situation. But yeah, the vulnerability, the fact that you can't feel anything, even though it was in a quote hero moment, it's still a form of grief. Ross doesn't get the opportunity to tell Rachel that he has feelings for her and wants to pursue something. The courage window closes because of the complications of the day. The grief flavor of almost and for relational grief has shown its head once again. And grief can be the moment that you didn't take because it's sometimes life gets so loud, so loud. So just to look back, Rachel and Barry's news of the backup plan, the grief thing. Have you ever been fine until you saw someone that you loved move on? Naming that loss as availability, fantasy, status, or certainty can help you through that momentum. Missing the old story doesn't mean that you want the old life. And that's kind of currently where I'm at. It's been nice having attention. It's been nice having contact. How much of myself do I need to give up to keep what I enjoy about this? I can't answer that right now, so I know you guys can't. Marcel even experiences some grief. You know, he gets out. He's never been out. So he's in the near a city. It's loud, it's fast, it's irrational. And he's got to pause and breathe and take the next step and try and go back where he's comfortable, which somehow ends up into Mr. Heckle's apartment. Wrong choice. But hey, at least he was safe and not on the streets for too long. Guilt versus shame. Guilty says I did something, and shame says I am something. So the repair language is I'm sorry, I'm here, and I'm fixing it. What that means is, in Rachel's case, Marcel got out. And it took her a couple minutes to actually explain what had happened. And she owned it, though. She did kind of do that. I'm sorry, I'm here and I'm fixing it. Like, she had the people out there looking for Marcel. She felt bad. She knew what she needed to do, and she was trying to make it work. Ross's anger is grief armor. The anger is often grief with a bodyguard. What he needed to express a little bit more clearly to Rachel is, I'm just scared that they'll take him. I'm scared that I'll lose him. Old wounds and power dynamics. Louisa. The stress doesn't create new pain. It pulls old pain forward. She had the power to say, you were cruel then, and I'm going to be cruel now. Instead, she said, you were cruel then, and I'm going to do the right thing now after I shot Phoebe, your friend. The mistiming in relationships. Sometimes grief is the conversation that you didn't get to have. Have any of you experienced that? See, I have. And I'm not just talking like they ghosted me. I mean, they literally ghosted me. Like, in both situations, they died. So I couldn't tell them what I wanted to. The mistiming. The last I love you. The last I didn't call you back because. And let me tell you something. When they ghost you permanently because their heart stops, that's a lot harder to get over. So if you've got some folks out there that you just got a little agitated with, or maybe the song or the dance, the movement didn't fit completely, that's okay. They don't have to be your person. But maybe for your own sake, your own heart space, letting them know, or if you don't want to tell them, just write it down and release it out into the world, why you chose the actions that you chose. You know, it's nice to think it's never too late, but sometimes the clock runs out. So for anybody that has experienced some kind of loss, know that disenfranchised grief covers everything, because that's what grief is. Grief is the job loss, the career pivots, the divorce, the breakups, the empty nests, the moving, the identity shifts, the friendships ending, the loss of life you thought you'd have. Bereavement and mourning, those are about death. So I'm a grief coach. And anybody that has hit any kind of stuck moments in their life has probably done so because of something related to grief. So at the Naked Grief, we offer support communities that meet you where you are without pressure, toxic positivity, or having to explain why it hurts. What you'll find here: a private judgment-free space to process what changed, practical tools, prompts, and guidance that you can use right away, multiple styles of support that you can choose what fits, and switch if you need to. A path to find your footing, one small step at a time. If you're not ready for therapy or coaching yet, but you know you need something, you're in the right place. Learn more at thenakedgrief.com. There's 3 different support communities and one program that goes through a lot of different tool styles like EFT tapping, cognitive behavioral therapy exercises, um, a lot of different things, because we have to get to the root of why we behave one way to stop the pattern and move forward. So, we'll see you next time for episode 20. And until then, da 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 da